Hey, what's going on guys? It's Brian coming to you again from the TST garage. As you can see, I have a gorgeous 2018 Ninja 400 next to me. We were one of the first people to pick this bike up in Florida, so we are doing our part to make it look a little bit better, be a little bit more functional. What I'm going to be talking about in this video is the installation of these adjustable shorty racing levers. These levers are going to be a really nice upgrade from the OEM. They'll survive a little bit better in a crash. They look a lot better in my opinion. And the most important part of them is they do give you that range of adjustability, 6 positions, so you could have it closer to the bar or further away from the bar, depending on your hand size. The installation is fairly straightforward. There's a few things that we'll get to on the clutch side that are a little bit more complex, but we'll get right through them and I'll walk you guys through step by step. Let's jump in. We're gonna do the brake side first and then move our way over. All right, so as you guys can see, we're starting on the brake side. I've gone ahead and grabbed my 10mm socket, a 10mm open/closed box wrench. We're just gonna go ahead and loosen the lock nut that's on the lower portion of this perch. Once you get that broken loose, you can actually remove it by hand. Set that off to the side, you'll need it later. Take our socket, fit it on top. That perch is threaded. You can see that the bottom of this bolt does actually go down and thread into that perch that holds your brake lever. Now you can see on this OEM, they do have an insert. We're actually not gonna need to use that over again, so this whole lever can just get set down. We're gonna grab our TST Shorty Racing lever. Now you can add a little bit of grease to this bolt. Ours still has a good bit on it, so we're not going to, but if your motorcycle is a little bit older, you might wanna think about doing that. We're gonna go ahead and insert our lever, just as the OEM one sat. Drop that bolt down through. Start to hand thread it. You definitely don't want to cross thread your brake perch. And just get that guy going down in a little bit. You'll feel it start to bite when it does. And we can take our tool. Really start tightening down. Once we hit bottom out, I'm going to do a little half turn there. Not even, probably less than a quarter of a turn actually. Then we're going to take our locking nut again, thread that onto the bottom, grab our box wrench, holding the top bolt, and give that a good half crank there too. You're going to want to make sure that your lever moves freely. If it does bind forward or aft, you are going to want to loosen up this pinch bolt a tiny bit. Otherwise, the brake side is complete. Let's move on over to the clutch. All right guys, so now that we are over here on the clutch, I am gonna touch on the certain nuances of this side. There is a little lock nut and it is underneath this perch. It is very hard to access, so what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take our 10mm socket again. We're gonna loosen the actual whole perch on this bar so that we can go ahead and tilt it up. You see it just did it itself. Now one precaution I wanna take is this little clutch sensor. There's a little tab. I just want to remove that wire so that we're not straining that when we do go up here and turn this lever up like that. So I am going to go ahead and tighten that back down just a tiny bit so that it doesn't move around on me too much. Want it almost vertical because I'm now going to take my open-ended wrench and get on that little lock nut, and I'm going to have to loosen that guy. Now, like I said, it is very particular the way that you get in there. If you angle your tool right with 2 or 3 half turns, you should be loose enough to be able to start to turn that off. There we go. I can spin that off by hand now. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the actual pinch bolt of the perch. Again, this side is threaded as well. Once we have that shoulder bolt out, we're going to set that down. We will need it again. So guys, I went ahead and grabbed some pliers so that I can actually adjust the clutch cable length here. Now, because we're up top, we have extended it a little bit, so we are going to have to probably tighten this thing a good bit. Now, by tightening it, it does seem kind of backwards, but by tightening it, you're actually providing the clutch line with more space because that adjuster bolt, as you tighten it, actually pulls in a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and get it to a point. As you guys can see, I did use a little rag. I just don't like scratching that thing up with tools. So we've now gotten it to a point. You know what, let me actually rotate this back down so you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, so now in its rotated down position, you can see that there's a nice channel here that clutch line can actually slip out of. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is take our lever, pull out a tiny bit, rotate out, and I'll show you again. You wanna get that line to come through this line, this little slot in the lever, and drop down through the portion that I'll show you in 1 second on the underside. So you're gonna rotate out, hold your line, and drop that barrel straight down, just like that. So as you guys can see, there is a little portion here that catches that little barrel at the end of your clutch line and will actually allow you to rotate the lever and slip that straight down. It is going to be very similar to the installation process of the clutch lever, so let's get right into that. So again, guys, we're going to go ahead and take our clutch line. We're going to insert this little barrel portion into the accepting feature on the lever, rotate out, bring our lever back down. Going to have to pull it a tiny bit probably and get that guy back semi into its position. We're going to take our bolt again. You can, like the brake side, add a little bit of grease here. This still feels pretty slippery from the OEM. So I'm just gonna go ahead and drop that straight down through. Hand threading again. Don't want to cross thread anything up here. Once we get a few screw turns in there, so we're gonna go ahead and loosen up this perch bolt again, rotate up to give us access. Tighten it down a tiny bit. Taking that lock nut, getting it hand threaded as far as we can on there. And then again, switch to our open-ended and get it pretty close to bottom out. At bottom out, we are gonna actually go ahead and take our socket again and hold the top of this pinch bolt here so that we're not binding this lever, because that is very easy to do on the clutch side. All right, so there we are at bottom out. Gonna take my socket, hold that pinch bolt, and just give it another little half turn if I can get it in there. Not even. Yeah, okay, so that's about as tight as I'm gonna get that. Do want to just check that really quick before we rotate it down. All right, guys, so with that tightened down, we're going to go ahead and rotate our lever back into the optimal position that we'd like it to be in. Go ahead and tighten back down on that pinch bolt right there on the clip-on. Our next step is going to be to reinstall the little switch connector portion for our clutch lever position sensor. And then the last step is just going to be to check our free play there in the clutch line. It looks like we have a good bit, so I'm actually going to go ahead and loosen this clutch adjusting bolt here and give myself a little bit less free play. Seems about right. I'm going to go ahead and tighten down on that locking nut, making sure that that channel is not open so that our clutch line can't ever slip out at any point. Just to be extra safe, guys, I'm going to take this wrench here, just give that an extra half turn. Make sure that it is really tight. Check one last time, make sure our lever's not binding or anything. All right, guys, so with our clutch lever adjusted, we have now completed the installation of these adjustable shorty racing levers on this Ninja 400. These are an awesome addition to this motorcycle, especially because they provide on both the brake and clutch side 6 positions of adjustment. I personally like to run my clutch right about in the middle. It gives me a good feel on it, but it's also not too far for my hand to reach. Now my brake side, I like to keep that pretty far out, but that's just because I use the one finger when I'm riding around on the track. Again, these are adjustable, so you guys can ultimately decide. If you got small hands, you could bring them all the way in. If you got really big hands, you could bring them all the way out. These are gonna last a little bit better in terms of if you do go down, they are gonna hold up a little bit better to a crash being that they have multiple components and even a nice little notch here in the lever that will actually snap at that point as opposed to bending the whole lever, and hopefully give you enough to ride home with 2 fingers. If you guys like these products, you can find them on our website at tstindustries.com. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and definitely subscribe to our channel to keep up to date on the products that we launch for this Ninja 400 and any other motorcycle that we may carry parts for. I'll catch you guys next time.